There's a moment on the path that no one warns you about. Not your teachers, not your heroes, not even the books that sparked your transformation. It comes quietly, after the first wave of motivation dies, after the crowd disappears, and suddenly, you realize something terrifying. You are alone. And it's not a mistake, it's not a glitch, it's the initiation. We live in a culture that glamorizes the transformation arc, the hero's journey, the phoenix rising, the redemption story. But it skips the part where the seeker is abandoned, not metaphorically, but literally. Friends fade, mentors disappoint, family stops understanding you. At first you think something's gone wrong, but what if this collapse is the doorway? What if it's supposed to happen? Jung said, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. But the modern mind resists pain, so we cling to the familiar. We confuse comfort with love, popularity with purpose, connection with alignment. But the self, the real self, doesn't emerge through comfort. It emerges through rupture, through solitude, through letting go of the world you thought would come with you. In this video, we're going to follow the path of the seeker. Not the Instagram version, but the real one. The one that begins when everyone leaves. You'll see why your isolation isn't punishment, why the silence is sacred, and why every true initiation begins the same way, with you walking into the wilderness alone. There's a strange loneliness that creeps in at the beginning of the path. Not because you've failed, but because you've changed. You start seeing things differently. The conversations that once lit you up now feel empty. The weekend rituals feel mechanical. You laugh along, but something in you is already gone. You didn't intend to leave anyone behind, but something cracked open in you. Maybe a heartbreak, a breakdown, a moment of unbearable honesty. And now you can't go back. You try to share what you're seeing, but it doesn't land. Your words bounce off the surface of people who still live in the version of reality that you have begun to outgrow. And then subtly, it begins. The texts slow down. Invitations dry up. Your presence starts to feel inconvenient. Like a glitch in the matrix that no one wants to acknowledge. This is the fracture. It's not dramatic, it's not explosive. Just a gradual peeling away of the skin you used to wear so easily. You realize that most of your relationships were built around who you were, not who you're becoming. And as that version of you dies, so does the comfort of being understood. This is the part of the story we don't talk about. The seeker doesn't set off with a fanfare. He slips quietly out of the back door of his old life, barely noticed. No celebration, no affirmation, just a feeling in his chest that says, keep going, even if no one follows. Because the truth is, no one can follow you here. This is your path, your descent. And the crowd was never meant to come along. At first, the solitude feels like freedom. No more pretending, no more distractions, no more noise. You tell yourself that this is what you wanted: clarity, peace, discipline. But then the silence gets louder. Without the validation, the banter, the friction of other people's energy, something starts to emerge. Not the higher self, not yet. Instead, it's everything you've been hiding from yourself. Old wounds, childhood voices, unlived regrets. The shadow rises. You thought walking alone would make you feel strong. Instead, you feel exposed. Small, unfinished. You begin to understand why most people never do this, why they cling to the crowd. Because facing the silence means facing yourself, not the curated self, and not the spiritual branding, but the raw, unfiltered, and unworthy parts. The ones that ask, what if you're not special? What if no one is coming to save you? What if this was all just ego disguised as purpose? You'll be tempted to turn back, to numb it, to reach out to the old world for comfort. Just one text, one post, one relapse into familiarity. But this is the test, not of your strength, but of your sincerity. Because walking alone isn't about distance, it's about honesty. And until you're willing to sit in that shadow, to let it speak, to let it burn away what's false, you haven't really begun the journey. You wanted to find your purpose, but what you've found is a mirror, and it shows you everything. There's a shift that happens after the shadow speaks and you don't flinch. When you stop fighting the loneliness and start listening to it. When the silence stops echoing back your fears and starts revealing something else, something solid, something still, something you. You begin to notice that the pain has shape, and within that shape is meaning. Not the kind handed to you by a system or a group, but the kind that grows from the bones, the kind you carve out of yourself. You stop craving to be understood because you understand yourself. You stop performing because there's no one left to impress. You stop searching for who you're supposed to be and begin acting from who you already are. This is the birth of sovereignty. Not rebellion, not ego, not domination. Just quiet self-possession. The kind that walks into a room and doesn't need to be noticed. Because it's no longer trying to be chosen. It chooses itself. And here's the paradox. Once you reach this point, others begin to feel it. The same people who left you behind now orbit your gravity. But you're no longer waiting for them. You've stopped asking the world for permission to exist. You walked alone, and that loneliness reshaped you. You thought the loneliness was a sign that something was wrong, that you'd made a mistake, that you were broken. But it wasn't a mistake. It was the doorway. Every real journey begins with separation. Not because the world rejected you, but because the self was trying to emerge. We spend so much of our lives trying to belong, to be chosen, accepted, and safe. But the seeker learns that true belonging can't come from the outside, not until it's first found within. And that is the paradox of the path. The moment you stop needing the world to see you is the moment you start becoming real. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe walking alone wasn't exile. Maybe it was initiation. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung wrote, is to become who you truly are. But no one tells you that to become that person, you will have to walk through a kind of death. You will have to let go of everything that tethered you to who you used to be. And when you do, you won't come back as who you were. You'll come back as someone no one's ever met before. Not even you. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your path towards integration.